What do you think are, I don't know, two of the three key building blocks in NLP?
Yeah, sure. Number one is managing your own state,
Yeah,
your own emotional state, and you can do that. There's it's easier. It's easier to do actually than most people might think of because they don't. That's when I said I learned I had choices
yeah,
that I could actually control my own states, my own emotional state. So if I was annoyed about something, I could do something and change that state because that state would have me do certain things. NLP is not just, I mean, while it's about the language and both verbal and nonverbal language and programs, how we get programmed, there's another facet to it. It has to do with our brain chemistry.
right.
And so most people won't teach that so much in NLP. Now you're going to start seeing more and more neurochemistry program things going on. We started this in the 90s teaching about it because depending on your internal state, you're going to make a certain set of
Mm.
neurochemistry chemicals. And they're either going to help you think better or they're going to detract from your thinking or some combination in between there, some mix, if you would, some mix of the cocktails you're doing up there in your head. And that's all based on change your thoughts, you can change your feelings. Change your feelings, you change your life. It's very simple. It seems simple, and it is. It's about knowing how to do those things, but that's number one. If you had a bad day going in on a driving in and you hit traffic and blah, 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 and you walk in your office all cranky and everything, and somebody very nicely says, good morning, and you go, yeah, what? Start that because you're still cranky. That's that's changing the environment right then and there. So state control is number one. It really is to me. And so that's learning how to control your emotions, and it's easy enough to do once you learn how to do it. Connected to that are triggers, and we call anchors. They're
Yeah.
called anchors. Now they're called triggers because now it's a blame thing. You triggered me.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that, but keep talking.
Well, that's what. Why? I understand the word trigger. I understand that, but they're anchors. Some people are replacing some of the words in our own NLP
Yeah, yeah.
technology. That's okay, but then how is that being used? But now it's a trigger. So I'm going to tell you what, in a strategy in your brain, in your and how you do something, how you respond. Something occurs, and then you respond
Yeah.
to that. There's a small little sliver of a nanosecond of time in which you have the choice to not respond the same way, provided you know how to change that response. So just because someone, the typical one is, you'd be sitting in a meeting, you get loads of people on this call, so they'll know this. You tell the set, you go to a business meeting, you're sitting there, you say, okay, here's our plans for next year, and everybody around the room goes, and they roll their eyes. And then all of a sudden you go, what? What's the matter? They don't, you just triggered them, whatever that means. Or you fired off what we would call an anchor, by telling them something or how you did it with the voice tone, whatever it was. But if you can recognize when you're triggering someone that don't have to do it that way, you might get other different responses. Let me put it that way. The second part is if you're triggered,
Mm.
if you're anchored to certain things, it's how general it is. But in a lot of cultures, when growing up as children, they get pointed at like that. Now you sit down and you do this and you do that and you do that. And they're pointing fingers. I've seen people doing public speaking and they point their finger at the crowd, but they don't see the response because just the fact they're doing that, people will move back and move away a little bit in their chairs, just very slightly, because that they're anchored to that from when they were little kids, all kinds of things like that. So anchoring, you know, and that comes to me, that also comes under
Personal state.
managing your own
Yeah,
states, but you
yeah,
got to know what the external stimuli is. In NLP, or just for everybody else out there, we describe it in terms of the thing with Pavlov's dogs. Ring the bell, feed the dog, ring the bell, feed the dog, and then don't ring the bell, don't feed the dog. He's going to bite you. That kind of thing. But that's about conditioning, and we're all conditioned to something. You're all conditioned, every one of us, on a very simple daily basis. You're conditioned, and you don't think about it. You see red light, you stop. Hopefully,
mm,
usually,
mm,
right? You see green light, you go. I mean, these are simple things, but you don't think about it. You don't think about taking your foot off the accelerator, applying it on the brake, slowing it down a little bit when you see the red light. But you've already been conditioned to do this. We're conditioned to do a lot of things, very simple, everyday things,
yeah.
you know. But how can you respond differently in ways that you might want to respond differently. So that's important.